Good afternoon, Mr. Knowles.
Good afternoon.
Do you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Paul Knowles Jr., 96144.
Okay. And Mr. Knowles, you're here this afternoon. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish, the 24th Judicial District, in November 1981 to a life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And let me acknowledge you have guests there with you. You have your sister, Miss Margaret Conrad. She'll be speaking on your behalf. And you also have your sister-in-law, Miss Angela Knowles.
Yes, yes.
Joining us by Zoom, we have Mr. Andrew Hunley with the Parole Project who will be speaking. And we also have here in opposition a representative from the DA's office in Jefferson Parish, and we'll hear from him at the appropriate time. Mr. Knowles, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her question?
Good afternoon, Mr. Knowles. How are you today?
Grateful to be here.
Okay, all right. Well, let's kind of get into why you're here. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, how old are you, Mr. Knowles?
I'm 64. I'll be 65 in December.
And how long have you been incarcerated?
42 years.
Okay, so you were 22, give or take, when this crime occurred. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I would like for you to explain to us, Mr. Knowles, what happened. How did you end up killing Miss Marie, and just walk us through what happened to him.
Okay. Me and a friend of mine were going out to a club. We went to Frank's house to see if he wanted to go out with us. When we got there, he was loaded, drunk. He had liquor, pills, all kind of paraphernalia like this. I was going to leave. When I tried to leave, the door was locked. So I couldn't get out of there. I told them I wanted to leave. I don't do drugs. I didn't do drugs or drink. When I tried to leave, he kept telling me, no, stay. And on the side of the house, on the side of the room, he entertained a lot of parties, and there was cutlery there. He did a lot of pies and cakes, things of that nature, pastries. There was knives, big spoons, big forks. So
Can I stop you for a minute, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Knowles?
yes, ma'am.
When we get your case, we get all of the police reports and everything associated with the
Okay.
case. So we actually have the facts of the case before
Okay.
us.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time looking at the case and looking at the facts of the case. And so generally, when I ask you to tell us what happened, it's not that I don't know the circumstances. I want to know, is the offender going to be honest? Is he going to be forthcoming and own up and take responsibility
Yes,
for
ma'am.
what they've done? And what I have in front of me is an excerpt from a police report that after you were questioned by the detectives, you asked to call your parents in Florida. Remember that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And after speaking to your parents, you became upset and you told the 3 officers, I killed him, I killed Frank Emery.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Used the knife that you got from the kitchen and stabbed Mr. Emery more than once. You said Mr. Emery provoked the attack by talking about your sister. He said they argued, Mr. Emery slapped him, and then you killed Mr. Emery. That's what you said at first. And then there was some indications that Mr. Emery had some photographs from a sailboat that were, let's just say, something that you didn't want disclosed. And because of that, he was killed.
Okay, let me explain something here. Some of that was in the trial
Mm-hmm.
of the photographs, but that had nothing to do with, nothing to do with him at all, as far as killing, no. And the knife, I might have said that at that time, but there was cutlery there, and I might have said kitchen, but it was like, they kept, you had parties and you had, forks and knives and all that to cut up with. That's where the knife came from. And if that's,
That usually is kept in a kitchen.
well, you could say it was a kitchen maybe. I don't think it, I just say the cutlery on the side, that's all. I mean, it could have been a kitchen area. At the time when all this happened, ma'am, I wasn't real, I just kind of freaked out, and it had nothing to do with my sister. There was drugs there. And what set me off was he had a syringe of something in it. And I'm terrified of needles. And I grabbed the knife only to stop him from coming at me. That's it. I didn't mean for anything to happen. I took his life, man. Yes, I did. I didn't go in there and mean to. It wasn't intentionally. It just happened. I so wish I hadn't, but it did happen. There was the pictures and all that at that time had nothing to do with that. I was openly gay. And that had nothing at all to do with that. Somehow I don't know where that came from. That was in the trial, but not for that.
Well, the only thing that I can say, Mr. Knowles, is that I'm reading from the report, and the statement about your sister came from the interview that you initially gave to the police. So that's where that came from. Mr. Emery was talking about your sister, they argued, he slapped you, then he killed Mr. Emery. There was no mention of some effort on his part to inject you with drugs with a syringe. And the only thing I can go by what I have before.
Okay, what?
You do acknowledge that you stabbed Mr. Emery to death.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do after you stabbed him to death?
I really don't. We left. It was something that's so bad. I take full responsibility for it.
I'm just asking you a simple question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
How did he end up in the bathtub?
I remember vaguely how we pulled him in there. I don't even know why. I don't understand that myself. I've had a long time to think of that. I'm unsure of that. When it happened, I was just nobody knows what they feel like if they take a life. And this did happen. I did take this life. I can't bring it back. And it takes something out of your person when this happens. I'm so sorry. I don't have answers for some of the things, because at that time, I just don't know, ma'am. I'm so.
All right, so let's talk about the last 42 years, Mr. Knowles. Tell me some of the things that you've been involved in over the last 42 years.
Okay, the first few years I was here, when I came here, lifers couldn't get in school. There was a number of things they couldn't do, okay? And I tried.
But what have you done? When you were able to, what have you done?
I got my GED in '98. And before that, I have right here, I took a
Tell them
C-
some certificates. you
I
got.
took CPR class, Experience of God, CPR, got my high school diploma in 1998.
That's, listen to me, Mr.
Yes,
Nolan.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, CPR is great, but CPR doesn't
Right,
impact, your thinking or who you are as a person, or help you understand yourself or how you came to murder someone. I mean, I'm not interested so much in CPR or even your horticultural diploma or your plumbing apprenticeship.
right.
More interested in, what has had the most impact on you as a human being from programs that you have taken during your incarceration?
Anger management, my GED, those have helped me with a number of things.
Let me
Well,
ask you, took a living balance, is that correct?
Pardon me? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Why did you take living in balance?
Because people, when I took other classes or tried to get in, the people that I talked to, the teachers or whatever, they explained to me, you can get these classes and it'll help you. It can't hurt you. And some of them really did help. I learned a lot of things that when I was young, I didn't know. You don't know how a person feels, when you take a life, their families, their cousins, his brothers. I didn't know. I was young. And then things happen in here. I learned, and it's a terrible place to learn things. You're supposed to learn them, when you're growing up. I quit school when I was 16 years old. I don't know why. I'm really not sure, but I did. One of the worst things I ever did in my life. I ran with a crowd, we'll say, a bad crowd, maybe, I don't know. But I chose these things myself. And it wasn't until later on when I took some of these classes and I talked to the people and I listened that I understood I just was on the wrong path. Sometimes you don't know, you're just having fun or having a good time or something like that, and don't know until somebody shows you a better path. And then you see, well, hey, I didn't have to be in here all this time if I'd have followed this or followed that, but I didn't, and I regret it so much.
Stop talking, okay? Just stop talking for a minute, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like you took victim awareness and you learned how your crime impacted other people.
Yes, ma'am. A great
How
deal.
did, how did that change you?
I see things that now, in altercations, let's say, not to do this or not to do that because of how it makes other people feel. The chain reaction that happens when I do something wrong in that manner, any manner actually. But I learned the regard for others that I just really didn't know before. Whether it was stupidity, ignorance, I don't know. In the depths of my heart, I learned things that they're probably common, maybe, in the regular world, but some people don't know that for whatever reason, I don't know. And I learned to wait, check things out, to look at stuff through other people's eyes also, that you're not just hurting you're them, that one person or whatever. There's a whole line of other people, your family, their family.
Okay, all right, thank you. What's your current job at the prison?
I work as an orderly.
And how long have you done that?
Almost a year.
All And what have you done most of the time as far as a job in prison?
Okay, most of the job, I've been a clerk most of the time. Many years I've worked here as a clerk.
And you also have a horticulture diploma.
Yes,
Have you
ma'am.
used that at the prison?
Have I used it as a prison? Not really, not yet.
What about the plumbing?
Yes, yes. I was a clerk in the plumbing shop for 8 years. And I learned, I learned certain things. I was the clerk, but being a clerk, you learn stuff,
You've had 13 write-ups in the last 42 years, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the last one, I think, was in 1991.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember anything about those write-ups?
Some of them, one I remember I got which was kind of crazy, but I had a calculator, a solar calculator, and I was helping someone else. Since I couldn't go do GED, I was helping some other people. And I got wrote up for it, for having a calculator, a solar calculator. I didn't know that you couldn't have that. Other people had calculators, but I had a solar calculator. When I first came in here, for those first few years, I was just kind of, I guess angry was the word, very mad at myself, very in denial. And then one day I said, man, this is not it. I got to stop this. And experiencing God and Kairos, and I went to Kairos, really changed my world. It changed my life. And I thought these write-ups are stupid. One write-up, they had a sex offense write-up. Me and a dude were playing around, but I was trying to kiss him. Wasn't his fault. Yeah.
And I was only asking about the ones from 1991.
Oh, 91. Okay.
Okay. It was
They
a
should always
28,
do-
and it was a Rule 3 on one occasion and Rule 28 on the other. But we'll move on from that. You have a low risk assessment. Your institutional record is good. You've been described as a model offender. So let's talk about your transition plan. If you were to be successful at some point, tell us what you plan to do. Where do you plan to live? Where do you plan to work? How do you plan to support yourself?
Okay. I plan to, when I leave here, I'll go to the transition house with Andrew Hunley. And from there, get everything I need there and learn from him and everything. Then I'll go to live with my sister in Suwanee, Georgia. I'll be an assistant to her, she's transitioning to a new job and all that, and putting her computer and all that, getting all that together. During that time also, I also want to do some horticulture work also there. That's where I'll live in Georgia. And I want to do what I can. I want to live a good life. I want to honor, if this board gives me a favorable outcome, I want to honor that every day of my life. I will do good. I won't let anybody down.
You do have some opposition, Mr. Knowles, the sitting judge, not the one that was the judge when the crime occurred. Also, the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, the Kenner Police Department, and the Jefferson Parish DA's office. And our victim coordinator reached out to attempt to find survivors of the victim, and were unsuccessful in doing that. Or is there anything you can tell us about Mr. Knowles? Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, like you said before, he has a low risk factor. He does personally work for me currently. He does have some medical issues that he sees the doctor on a regular basis for, which are, common for his age. He's done all his programs. He's taken the 100 hours, and he is going to relocate to Georgia with his sister. I think she's retired military.
All right, thank you. Mr. Knox, that's all I have.
I don't see any other questions here, so we'll hear first from support, Mr. Hunley.
Andrew Hunley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing before the board to inform you that if Paul is granted a release in the near future, he would be a client of our reentry program. Paul was an easy client for us to accept based on over 40 years of incarceration, over 30 years without a disciplinary report. He's been a Class A trustee for the vast majority of his incarceration and has completed numerous self-help programs in addition to a horticulture vocational degree. He also has, obviously, as you've heard, a very highly trusted job at the prison working for Warden Hooper. If he is released, he'll come into our reentry program where we'll work with him with his initial transition. We'll ensure he receives a substance abuse and mental health assessment and that he complies with all recommendations that our staff social worker give. We'll work with him on technology, financial management, and working in getting accustomed to modern day social norms. And then at whatever time we felt comfortable with his reintegration, we'd move him from phase 1 to our program to live with his sister in Georgia, but he'd continue to receive case management services from us, and we would work to ensure that he has the support he needs in Georgia to continue to be successful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next, Ms. Margaret Conrad.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You stay where you're at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can keep your seat.
Oh, sit down?
Stay where you're at.
Okay, okay, and also I want to say that I have an ear issue right now, I have fluid, so I can't hear as well as I normally do, but believe me, it's getting better. So, yeah, so I'm ready.
Just tell them.
Go ahead.
Oh, tell whatever I want to say? Okay, first of all, and I don't know how much you want me to tell you, but I'll
About
just
3
tell you.
minutes.
Pardon?
About 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. First of all, I know him. I wasn't here when it all happened. I was overseas, military, So I had no idea of all of the stuff that was playing out until I got back to the United States, and it was just crazy. So anyway, all I can say is I know him. We talk, we've been, if there was ever a light in a dark place, this is the person. He has gone, we are brothers and sisters in Christ as well as brothers and sisters in life, okay? So, and I'm telling you this because, let me just keep going. So anyway, he has not only helped people here in the prison that nobody even has a clue, okay? In so many ways, because he goes outside of these boundaries. And the way I say that is because, and I'm gonna give you a quick example. My daughter, okay, had migraines really bad, Somebody in here in the prison thought that he was being punished because he was having these migraines and nobody could help him, My daughter sent him information about migraines. He went to this inmate and said, this is normal, this is what's happening. It soothes the person. I could tell you story after story. Katrina, okay, is that it?
Well, it's quick.
Oh, well, would you stop talking to me? Anyway, all I can tell you is I cannot believe this is my sister-in-law who is, yeah, but anyway, I could tell you story after story. He's been here 42 years. It has been amazing, an amazing journey and the most incredible journey on the planet, as far as I'm
So do
concerned.
you support him going home?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely support him going home. I
Coming to
can't,
stay
okay.
with you.
And that's
Okay.
it. He's coming to stay with me. And I can't wait because he knows how to do Excel and all these things that I don't. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your enthusiasm. All right, we'll hear from the DA's office now, Mr. Meyer.
Good afternoon, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA Jefferson Parish, and we're opposed to Mr. Knowles' request for commutation of his sentence. In looking at what happened, the facts of this particular case and what he's saying now, I don't believe he's being totally honest with the board, and that concerns me greatly with him getting a commutation of sentence. The facts is set forth at the time of the offense. Only Mr. Knowles was in the house. the victim threatened him, pictures and threatened his sister. They had an argument and the victim slapped him, at which time Mr. Knowles grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stabbed him numerous times. Police found blood on the kitchen sink and on the kitchen refrigerator. And the kitchen sink blood matched Mr. Knowles' blood type. In his pardon application, it seems to me like he's trying to put this in a much different light, almost to the point of being more of a self-defense type situation. That Mr. Knowles was coming at him with a syringe, and he took a knife from the side of the table and stabbed him. And he said his co-defendant jumped on him, on the victim, grabbed the knife and jumped on the victim's back as well. But originally, at the time of the offense, he was the only person in the house. The co-defendant had left and came back and picked him up after the crime had been committed. So it appears to me he's not being honest with us as to the facts of what happened. And I think some of the programs that he's had, rehabilitative programs he's had, are very limited. So for those reasons, we're opposed to his request today.
All right, thank you, sir. So, Mr. Knowles, there you are. Is there a brief statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Yes,
Briefly.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have no reason to lie. Maybe something is not remembered right, but I have no reason to lie. I've been here 42 years, and this is I'm hoping to get to leave here. I have no reason to lie, none. If something is amiss, that I didn't say something right or whatever, but I have no reason to lie, none whatsoever. I take full responsibility of taking Frank Emery's life. I murdered him. I am so sorry for that, but I have no reason to lie to you, none. At that time, half the stuff, I don't know what I said, because I was so out of it, so terrified. Nobody knows what they will say or how they'll feel or how they'll be if they take a life. I just ask for mercy.
All right, thank you, sir. I think we are prepared to vote. Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Knowles, I really do wish you'd been a little bit more forthcoming with your statement, but that's just one factor. You acknowledge that you took Mr. Knowles' life. You're only 22 when this crime occurred. You're a first offender. You have a low risk score. You already have only had 13 write-ups in the whole time you've been there. And the last one was over 30 years ago. You have a good institutional record, and you described by your supervisor as being a model offender. You have a good transition plan and family support. And so my vote today would be to recommend a commutation sentence of 50 years, immediate parole eligible.
Okay, Mr. Roshan.
Mr. Knowles, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Based on the length of your incarceration, positive remarks from Martin Hooper, and basically your transition plan out of state, I'm going to vote to community sentence to 50 years.
Mr. Mirabella.
My vote is the same, Madam Chairman, for the same reasons. So, Judge Jackson.
Mr. Freeman.
I concur with both of my colleagues, all three of my colleagues.
All right, and I also concur. So you've received a unanimous vote, Mr. Knowles, to make the recommendation your sentence be commuted to 50 years with immediate parole eligibility. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.